Hi YouTube, for this sculpt I decided to make the Lord of Darkness from the movie Legend. It's an 80s fantasy movie and the character Lord of Darkness was played by Tim Curry. So I've got this mannequin that I bought from a car boot sale, taken the arms and legs off and things, and I'll probably use them for something else. But I need to cut the top of the head off. I did toy with the idea of making a complete full-size figure, but I think my wife would kill me. And actually the head is going to be big enough on its own, especially when you consider that he's got absolutely massive horns. I'll probably keep this bit of torso. My wife was like, just throw it away. But you just never know when things like this might come in useful in the future. But yeah, all I need for this particular bust is just the head and the shoulders. And then I'll just find various bits to stick on to add to it. So like, for example, these tubs. These are just a couple of plastic tubs that I've sellotaped really loosely to his head. And then I've started building this up. This is just using crumpled up aluminium foil stuck on, and then I'm just going over the top with kitchen paper and super PVA glue or flooring PVA glue, which is really strong. And this just builds it up just like paper mache, but you can see all the little wrinkles and things that you get from using the kitchen paper look a little bit like skin stretched over the top, so it works really well as skin texture. I'll just show you a quick close-up of how I stuck these tubs on. You can see it's really just bits of sellotape over and over the top of each other, and you'll be surprised how tough sellotape is. I mean, I'm going to be paper macheing over the top of this anyway, which will make it even stronger. But yeah, sellotape has got so much strength to it if you keep using it over and over itself. Right, this is just building up with Milliput. Milliput is a two-part putty. You mix the two parts together and it sets rock hard in about 4 hours. Here you can see I'm just really loosely just whacking bits of well, sort of just chunks basically of Milliput on there, just kind of merging them in a little bit, getting them to stick on. In some places where it's bigger, I've just stuck aluminium foil balls on and then Milliput over the top of that. That saves on Milliput, but I will end up using quite a lot on this because I'm going to use Milliput for the whole of the face. You can see my laptop in the background there basically had loads of images of Lord of Darkness from Legend on it from the movie, so I'm just kind of using that as reference material. It helps to have quite a lot of images actually of the same thing, and then you can be a bit more subtle about how you go about doing it. So again, various kind of sausages of Milliput or rolls of Milliput just stuck on and just smoothed in at the edges. Starts to build up quite quickly. The mouth took a little while to get right, but I'm pretty pleased with this. And then you can see I've just added onto the side of where those tubs were. These are basically the sockets that the massive horns are going to go into. And I put these on and they weren't big enough at this stage, but it was a good kind of starting point, and then I could keep adding to them, make them even bigger. Same like these sort of jaw muscles added on the side. All kind of starts to build up quite quickly really. I was quite surprised with this one because the whole thing I did probably over about 3 or 4 days, pretty quick for me. The eyes were just a couple of balls that I positioned in place, stuck them on, and then just placed the eyelids over the top. The eyelids weren't thick enough at this point, but it was again a good starting point. Okay, for the horns, I just made them out of aluminium foil, all crushed. I used quite a lot of aluminium foil actually, even just to get it to this stage where the horns are really quite thin still. But again, it was a good starting point. So I just crumpled them all up and then paper mache'd over the top, let that all dry, and it starts to become quite solid even at this stage. But I'm going to be putting loads and loads of layers over the top of this to really kind of thicken them up, because the horns are not only just massive in length, but they're actually really wide as well. I had all these brackets which were from the mannequin that attached the arms onto the torso, so I thought about using these to attach the horns on. But in the end I just thought it's quite fiddly and complicated, and if I don't get the angle right I won't be able to get the horns on very well, so in the end I just decided just to stick them straight on. It would have been handy to be able to detach the horns, but I just think it would be easier and probably end up being lighter if I just make it all just as one big thing. Okay, the teeth are those proper kind of, I think they're sort of almost like veneer type things that dentists use. You can buy them really cheaply on eBay, but as you can see, they look very realistic as teeth. He has got these kind of couple of fang-like teeth, and I basically just turned a couple of incisors around sideways, and I think that seems to work quite well. They're not quite as long as I'd have liked them, but rather than ordering a new pair and having to wait for them in the post, I thought I'd just turn around the incisors, and it looked good enough. So I just was using this duct tape, just twisted around the horns over the top, and that will obviously strengthen the horns as well, but it's mainly to kind of thicken them up. Is another good sort of place to kind of start with it, but I know I need to keep building and keep building. So every time I did a layer of the duct tape, I also then added a layer of paper mache over the top. Here you can see more tendons and things added into the, so it sort of looks a bit almost like kind of ribs, but they're not. It's above the ribs. And here you can see I've just moulded in with a lot of Milliput, softened it all in, and yeah, that will look even better painted, but it's already looking quite cool even at this stage. Right, after a bit of refining, I managed to get it like this. So it's a lot smoother. There was a lot of me kind of just putting bits of Milliput on, smoothing it all in. Obviously I've made his ears, that makes quite a difference. But yeah, just softening the curves of the nose, adding kind of thicker eyelids, putting this kind of ridge down his head and these sort of veins on the top of his head. Also kind of bulking out those curved rounded sections on his head as well. That's made a difference. The horns are getting even thicker, and I've added some Milliput tips to make them kind of more pointed. That works quite well. Again, paper mache'd over the top, and I'll keep paper macheing until I'm happy with the thickness of the horns. You can see here all of the bits of Milliput that were on this lower section. I've just added again paper mache over the top. So lots of kitchen paper, lots of PVA glue, and quite a bit of time, but still has happened really quickly compared to a lot of my other sculpts. There's some Milliput boxes. Ooh, looks nice. Those will be used for a future project, but you can see it's a nice lot of Milliput to have there. Okay, next I painted the whole thing black. This is just using black System 3 acrylic paint. I think it's Mars black, this particular colour. But really you're just after like a very dark base coat. At one point I had actually painted his eyes and the top of his head, but I hadn't painted his chin, and he looked like a sort of a very evil Batman. It looked pretty cool actually. You probably can't see any real difference at this point on the screen. I don't know if my camera picks it up very well, but I've actually painted a very dark brown after the black. Not on the horns, but just on the face and the neck and everything. This again is really another base coat, but it's all been dry brushed on, so there's still some black in the very deepest places, and then this nice brown colour, and the reds will be built up on top of this. Okay, so this was very quickly dry brushed red. Again, it's System 3 acrylic, but this time I'm using cadmium red. Just dry brush, so it's just going in all the top areas, like the areas you would normally expect to see highlights. Still really dark in all the lower places. That's thanks to all of the base colours of black and brown that I put on. But yeah, it's starting to work, but he's still really dull compared to how I want him to look. He needs to be a really kind of vibrant red. At this point I decided to get my airbrush out because it's really good at kind of softening in all of the areas, like all of those deep areas that were very dark, but they weren't kind of giving the vibrant effect of the face as much as I needed to. So I've really airbrushed lots of coats onto all the higher places, and I've just done very soft coats of red over some of those deepest places, and as you can see it's really brightened him up. It's still probably not doing as much justice as it should on this video, but yeah, in real life he's really quite vibrant and really eye-catching. Okay, so this is how he turned out. I ended up painting the eyes this nice kind of vivid yellow. So I started off with a very pale yellow to start with, and then painted the pupils just like slit pupils, and then painted some cadmium yellow in just for a bit of eye detail as well. The reason they look really shiny is because I put a layer of UV resin over the top, and then you shine a UV light onto it and it hardens, and it gives that nice kind of glossy look to the eyes, makes it look a lot more realistic. With the teeth, they were looking just a little bit too bright, so with the gums painted that sort of pink colour, I actually went in and did some kind of wet washes of just black paint over the top, and again that sunk into all the deep areas in the teeth and the gums and things, and it makes it just look a lot more kind of realistic. I'm really pleased with how he turned out. He's absolutely massive though, even for me just to take him around and show my students and things, and I'm having to put him in the back of the car, and he takes up most of the back of the car. So I think if I'd have made him as a full-size figure, I could totally understand why my wife would want to kill me. I've just got to say a big thank you to Milliput for sponsoring this channel. Check out my other videos of other movie creatures and weird things that I've made. Hit subscribe to see anything that I make in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.